Aloha, everyone, and welcome to UFO Secret Space. And I'm your host, Janet Care Lessin. I don't know if Teresa J. Morris will join us, but she said she wanted to stop in because we're doing a wonderful panel today with Susan Johnson. Amanda Marino will join us the first hour. She's on her way home. And then Bruce Cornet will join us the second hour. And then Amanda will be dropping off. So we're going to be discussing a lot of incredible topics around ufology and the secret space program and what's going on in heaven and earth, I guess. Let me turn on the mic for Susan Johnson. Hold on one second. There we go. Sometimes it doesn't click when you click it at one time. And Susan Johnson, how you doing today? You're coming here from Florida, and you were going to talk about the diseases that people that are involved in this these programs, contactees, abductees, sometimes secret space program people, some of the diseases they get. So go ahead. Begin wherever you want to start. I know you wanted to talk about Morgellons.
Yeah, specifically Morgellons disease. I didn't know I had it. And for ever since 1989, I've been going from one dermatologist to another, and they diagnosed me with all different types of disease, like seborrheic eczema, rosacea, seborrheic dermatitis, eczema, and they threw every cream that they could at me, and none of them really worked. They would minimize the symptoms, but it would never really go away. And then finally, my face, now it's getting to the point where if it breaks out, it stays broken out. It doesn't heal as quickly as it used to. And it's red and it's blotchy and embarrassing. So finally got exasperated. I went to a dermatologist in November 9th, and he looked at me and he asked me all my history. And he said, "Oh, you got Morgellons." I go, "Morgellons?" And he said, "Yeah, because all the symptoms you're describing to me exactly matches. It's itching, a feeling of crawlingness, itchiness, redness, red blotches. Sometimes they weep and they'll stay there, and then when they heal, they flake. Now, it could look like rosacea. It could look like seborrheic eczema or anything like that." And so then he was going to prescribe a psychotropic, and I said, "No, I will not take any psychotropics." And he says it has to do with the central nervous system. I said, "No, I thought it was a bacterial infection." And up until then, I thought that there was something in the atmosphere that was attacking my skin, because the atmosphere, a healthy planet has a healthy biosphere, meaning that there's organisms that live in the atmosphere itself. And when people come in and diagnose a health of the planet, they will take samples of the air, the atmosphere, and tell the percentage of different types of organisms and the ratios in that atmosphere. And what they found on the Mir space station and on the ISS, they found phytoplankton on the windshields, and it did not come from Earth. This is an example. Red rain in India, they went and they looked at it, and they found out that in the red corpuscles, at first they thought there was no DNA, but after further analysis, they did find trace amounts of DNA in it. And they didn't know if it came from a meteorite or something, but it was obviously an airborne atmospheric organism. And so that I assumed that I had some kind of bacterial infection from the atmosphere attacking my skin. Well, I was partially right. And then when the doctor diagnosed me with Morgellons, I went on the websites. I looked up Dr. Jennifer Save, who's supposed to have she has a PhD in nursing. She's the one who did the research in Morgellons. And they have a foundation called Charles E. Holman Foundation for Morgellons. But they say a co-infection with Lyme disease. Well, I'd never been bitten by a tick or anything, but the only other source I could have gotten it from is the experiences up there, because I heard in the past, and they don't mention it too often anymore, but in all the UFO abduction or experiencer literature, they'll mention that some of these abductees will get this Morgellons disease, and it's characterized by colored filaments coming out of the sores. Well, I said, I don't have those colored filaments coming out of the sores. And the doctor said, no, you got to look at them under a microscope, a 60x or 100x microscope.
Right.
I mean, this is weird. And I'm wondering what other kind of diseases they get.
Well, I'm looking at Morgellons, and it has fibers in, underneath, and protruding from either slow healing sores or completely unbroken skin. They have a variety of nagging issues, including sensations of biting, crawling, or stinging in and on their skin. They're bothersome and painful for patients. They end up impacting their daily life. Okay, so have you had that sensation of biting and crawling?
I've had the sensation of itching and something like a tingling, like a tickling underneath the skin where I have to scratch it, and sometimes I get a stinging sensation at certain points where the itching is, and it's mostly on my upper arms and on my face.
Yeah, they show a woman it's on her back. I have this. I got some back scratchers because it was just driving me crazy, and it's like, I don't know what it looks like, so maybe I have that too. I might have it too. So how are you saying that the people where are they getting it from in the space program or in the contactees? Where do you think they're getting this, Magellan?
It's either some kind of a bacterium from the Earth's atmosphere that is attacking their skin, which I thought at first, because of the alien hybrid, the DNA part, maybe my skin is different or something, and it's attacking my skin because of obviously alien hybrid. And there's a lot of aliens walking among the human population that look human, but they're not really, they're not fully human. They're like 1/6 human. The rest of them, DNA is like alien. And they now they're out, like that prime minister from Israel, from the Defense Department of Israel, said, his name is Haim Eshed, and he said that there's a lot of aliens walking among us. Well, obviously I've been pegged as one, and I thought it was something that was attacking us.
I'm going to see. Hold that thought one moment. I'm going to see if either of these two are our other guests. Okay, 1 second. I think this might be. Okay, let's try this one first. Area code 708. Who do we have here? You're on the air. Area code 708. Are you one of our guests, or are you just calling in to listen? Hello? Okay, I'll leave that mic on for a moment. Area code 915. Are you one of our guests or co-hosts, or just calling in to listen?
Bruce Cornet.
Oh, hi, Bruce. I thought you weren't calling into the second half of the show.
I thought so, too.
Here.
Okay.
Oh, good. Glad to see you. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me just try one more check-in with 708. Who do we have at 708, area code 708? Is that Amanda? That's not the number I have for Amanda. Alrighty. I'm going to leave your mic live so you can chime in. If you're just someone to listen, I'll turn it off in about 5 minutes. But okay, we're back. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, Susan. Go ahead and continue with your story.
So I suppose that it has to do with the fact that I think as far as the human abductees that are human incarnate human beings, abductees, and the ships with the ETs, I think it's a byproduct of experimentation that they're doing on the humans, especially like the Greys that do painful experiments on the human abductees. It's probably a cross-infection from procedures being done to them, or it could be an airborne bacteria in their ship that's attacking their skin. That's for the human abductees. Experiencers, they could either be an alien hybrid or an ET human hybrid, and in that case, it's questionable if they're getting it from the ships or if they're getting it from the atmosphere on the Earth. And as far as
how would they get it from the atmosphere? How would they get it from the atmosphere on the Earth if they're an exposed ship?
They use the bacteria in the atmosphere, like fungus and algae and molds and stuff, are airborne. And the same mechanism that's used for algae growth and growth of mold and stuff, like on patios and in showers and stuff, The mold and everything is airborne, and it lands on the skin or it lands on the surface, and if the conditions are ripe, it starts to proliferate. Well, I think it's the same mechanism involved.
Mhm. Is it contagious? Can you breathe and somebody catch it from you?
No, you cannot catch it from another person. That was made very clear. You cannot catch it from the person's shedding. You cannot catch it from the person sitting somewhere and you are touching something and you touching the same clothing or sitting in the same seat or anything, and you cannot get it from touching the other person. It has to do, and they even said in the Morgellons Foundation, it has to do with the unique genetics of that person, that their DNA could be involved. So, which is by default, that brings me back to the fact that you got ET alien human hybrids, you got ET human hybrids, where that DNA is different, which would allow that skin to be more susceptible to attack by airborne atmospheric bacterium.
Well, you make sense. I want to check in with Bruce. Hi, Bruce. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Janet. Oh, I'm doing pretty well.
Hi.
And yourself?
You know, we're hanging in here. Hi, can you hear us? We're okay. We're broadcasting. We're hanging in here. We're trying to stay on top of all these subjects that are really important to bring to the forefront, because I was talking to Susan earlier. I think something's happening this month. Do you have any updates for us on what's going on in disclosure with ETs? What's happening?
Well, just
from your
that
perspective?
a lot of stuff is coming out, Janet, as you probably already know. I mean, with these articles concerning Trump and the Israeli general that was saying that Trump has been in contact with the aliens just as Eisenhower was back at Holloman Air Force Base. And this is a surprising revelation if it is true. Of course, it'll probably always remain just as a rumor without any confirmation other than that general in Israel.
Has anybody managed to have an interview with this general besides just the article? That seems, too convenient, right? Where's more information on that? Do you think that they would be getting him on all the major networks? And I might have missed things. I don't see everything. So have you seen anything additional besides that initial article?
I doubt that the major networks are going to deal with this subject, especially if it involves Trump.
Mhm. Well, they already had things on the make fun of things, which I think is relevant. Even though like Jimmy Kimmel's and Trevor Noah's and all the other people will take something and do the giggle factor, but at least they're
the giggle.
They think it's relevant enough to have the discussion. I don't know. I haven't seen anything, so it just seems like this is just going to come and go because nobody's really picking it up that has any kind of clout.
Well,
That's my opinion.
Third Phase of the Moon on YouTube with Blake Cousins, Third Phase of the Moon, did feature a long video discussing the interviews that they had with Haim Eshed, who is the Prime Minister of Israel, over these the allegations that Trump has made contact with ETs, which I do not doubt for 1 minute, because remember his uncle used to work at Area 51, and he always looked up to his uncle. It was his idol, and I think his middle name is the name after his uncle. So his uncle knew everything about Area 51 and about the aliens and stuff, and Trump knew more than what he was letting on. And then there was an interview with Tucker Carlson, which was on Ancient Aliens, the series, and it was on another UFO documentary where it showed Tucker Carlson, it showed Trump Jr. interviewing Trump, and Trump shook his head up and down yes when the Son asked him, do you believe that aliens exist? And he shook his head up and down yes, as he was saying, no, I don't. So clearly the body language, which is subconscious body language, indicates that he does know more than he's saying.
Oh. Yeah, because the words that came out was, I don't really believe in him. But apparently he got in trouble because he he couldn't contain himself. If you have that information, you just can't contain yourself. So let's see. You said third phase of Moon interviewed the general. Let's see.
It's third phase of the Moon. It was breaking news, and it was Prime Minister of Israel or Defense Department discloses that Trump has been in contact with ET. Now here's the catch. It's a very damning article because Trump was told by the so-called Galactic Federation not to disclose information yet because they're not done experimenting on humans, and they want everybody to calm down right now because they don't want to create a mass-wide panic. And also at the very bottom of the article, I emailed it to you. I don't know if you got it or not, but it was another article that actually Bruce Cornet forwarded to me, and it said Obama at the very bottom said that the ET told him that we're in extreme control over everything, and we in extreme control of the human race. Now that by admission right there is the negative ET tall whites, the negative grays, the negative reptilians controlling and subjugating the human race and keeping them dumbing down so they can keep using them as a commodity, like I've been saying all along. And that's an admission right there.
I read that, but I thought that was an interpretation of the comment that he said to Will Smith and Will's son, which I forget his name right now. And when the son was there, it was young, he went to Obama's office, and Obama said, I know you want to know about the ETs. And then, anyway, he basically did that running joke that if I really told you the truth, I'd have to kill you. And that's why I thought they were just interpreting that as there's extreme control. But,
no.
Extreme control.
That was a direct quote from Obama.
Additional information. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I don't think Obama said the ETs have us under extreme control. I think that's an interpretation of either that comment he made or the one he said on, it was either Jimmy Kimmel or, one of those, Cool Bear or something. They've all interviewed, they go around the circuit interviewing. They did Clinton, the male, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Obama, and they even asked, I think they had one on Bush. I remember watching those a few years back, and I should go find them again. It's kind of interesting. So I'm looking to see what you sent me. Oh, okay. Whistleblower reveals advanced technology used in the secret space program. Is that it? Or there's script?
Oh, yeah, I sent you that one later on. That's in relation to what we're going to be discussing later about our fleet around the sun and around the Earth.
I'm pulling up the interview. I'm pulling up the article about aliens made agreement. Okay, so I'm going to get the quote itself. Hell of a video, Trump not convinced. Trump reveals what he knows about UFOs. These are videos. I can't really click on them because we don't have the ability of playing them. Then he said Bernie Sanders pledged to reveal the truth. See, I think that if somebody is revealing the truth before they want it revealed, then they fall from grace with the ETs. And I'm a person that doesn't, based on my sources and whistleblowers, there really are no elections. They're kind of assignments. People get appointed, and then the election process is just like, bullshit. They decide who they want. And I had a couple, my friend George Green, he was high up in the 60s and 70s. He was very high in designing the systems, like derivatives and the monetary systems. And he was in with Ted Kennedy and all those people. And then he was told that the next president would like you to work with him as some kind of economics advisor. And George says, wait, next president? How do you know who the next president is? We haven't even, decided who's going to run. And the group that he was with was pretty, high up in the quote-unquote Illuminati. And they said, oh, we already know who's going to be the president. We make that just
because they control everything from behind the scenes. They have the vast network in the center of the continental U.S., and the Four Corner states and stuff, and that's where they do all their deep state operations, and that's where their true government is, their true capital, their true government. Could even be underneath that Denver, Colorado airport. And
that's one
they
of
have
their
underground colonies.
Stations. Mm-hmm.
They got underground colonies, underground military bases, and they have underground labs where they do horrible experiments on human abductees. There's been cattle mutilations, human mutilations, people disappearing, and you don't know where they're going. And what it is, there's a major portal that they artificially produce. And now I know this from my own experiences. I've seen it. They produce it in Los Alamos National Lab and at the Linear Accelerator Center. And they open up the portals, and it's the negative ET tall whites who give them the information and let them run it. And they're allowed to take credit for it because they're a university and everything. And that's the way of deflecting the attention away from the evil source of the real technology. Or the real source of the technology.
Now the
just
tall
like
whites,
they did in the 1920s.
Right. So the tall whites, are they a humanoid species? Are they
humanoid.
part of the Anunnaki? Are they at one point someone said that tall whites are the human Anunnaki hybrids that were the result of the Gigi coming down to Earth from Mars during Marduk's wedding. So the 200 that came down, they called it the Mars invasion, but they had actually come down from Marduk's wedding, and then they decided they liked it here, and they took a bunch of human women as their wives, and they depicted in the very famous painting, The Rape of the Sabine Women, but that was actually just a depiction of this group of, because they weren't getting any relationships on Mars. They weren't getting any kind of beers, booze. They like booze, right? And they weren't getting their alcohol and their sacraments, and there was no joy. It was just all work. So when they came down to Earth, they said, we're not going back. And so they settled somewhere around the Sinai in the mountains or something. So that's one story we have. Okay, so let me look at this interview, and I want to ask you, not the interview, the article. And both of you, I'd like you to both comment. So this is, what's this guy's name? They tell former Israeli space head. Where's his name? Oh, Professor Haim Hashed. He's got a degree in electronics engineering, a master's in performance research, and a doctorate in aeronautical engineering. So he's got a good pedigree here, right? And so in the Jewish press. And so what I got in the download, the aliens have asked not to announce they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. And Trump was on the verge of revealing that the aliens in the Galactic Federation are saying, wait, let people calm down, they don't want to start. But what I got is that Trump, from my personal download, right, from my connection I get, is that Trump did screw up and actually did tell somebody he shouldn't have, and that's why he lost the election. That's why they're probably not going to let him come back in power, because he's got a big mouth. They can't trust him. Now, I know they let, I guess Nixon took Jackie Gleason over to, Area 51 or something, and showed him the ETs. It was somewhere that they drove to, so it must have been near Washington, kind of military base near Washington. But, yeah, they get very upset when you pick it. So maybe that's what happened, because it didn't make sense, because the time travelers were saying that Trump was going to win. All the time travelers were saying, so it's like they switched timelines. And so I thought going into it, and I don't vote for Trump. I don't agree in his policies. But so I was going, and I was so shocked. I go, it looks like Biden won. And then I always ask questions to my guys. They go, and they're ETs. I know they're ETs. And I go, what happened? And then they very clear. Sometimes I ask a question and I wake up and say, oh. And it's very clear communication. It's all telepathic, but I have to get out of the way, so that I can receive the information. So it's usually when I'm relaxed and in my dream state, or sometimes, right before you go to sleep or wake up, then I get this download communication. It's very, very clear. So go ahead. What were you going to say about that? And then Bruce, Ethan,
I can tell you exactly why Trump would get in. We, my people, were pissed off at him, point blank, because we helped him get in. All the New Age groups, all the meditation, all the prayers, all the circles. Because I know someone who did meditation work and crystal work and everything, who lives in Indiana, and there were several groups that were all hoping that Trump would get in initially. We got him in. We helped him get in. He got against the odds. Clearly, that was some kind of intervention for that to happen. We got him in. So what does he do? He turns right around and forms the Space Force. Well, that's just making it official, the secret Space Force presence. Then he's condoning, we're going to weaponize Mars and we're going to weaponize the moon. And he had this Travis Taylor, who's an aeronautical engineer and astrophysicist, whose daddy worked at NASA as an engineer as well. And this Travis Taylor was featured on Ancient Aliens series on the 2-hour special on Mars. And Travis Taylor very clearly said, we want to weaponize the moon or we want to weaponize Mars against the incoming ET threat. Now that right there is a slap in our face, like a direct declaration of war. And the war has already been going on up there. And they're just now just closing it to the public and a trickle-down sci-fi format kind of thing. And then Trump, he goes and says, we're going to go to Mars and everything. And I can tell you some stories about what they've done to some different planetary races on Mars. They exploited them. They tortured them. They enslaved them. They used them as slave armies. The Sison was one group from the Epsilon Booty system that was enslaved on Mars, and we had to free them. We had to wipe out their 5 human colonies that were exploiting and torturing these other alien races, and we freed them up. And I had
Who's doing the torturing? Who was doing the torturing? Was it the Secret Space Force that was doing the torturing, or the tall whites?
Both, in cahoots. And then when we wiped out the 5 human colonies on Mars, we freed up the Sison, but some of their people were killed in the process. And they were angry at us, and they sent one of them down here. And I actually had poltergeist activity in my room, in our house from June 15th of 2015 until June 23rd. And I called George Filer, and I asked him, did you hear anything about Mars? Did you hear anything about anything that happened? And this is this is about 3 days after I had that scout scene recall, whatever, of 5 human colonies being wiped out on Mars and everything. He says, well, I don't know how reliable my source is, but he told me that, yes, the reptilians wiped out the 5 human colonies on Mars. I couldn't believe it. I thought, whoa, that was in between my eyes. And then.
Yeah, but how do we verify these things? There's a lot of stuff said. So how do we? There's really, it's a lot of story and a lot of talking and a lot of statements.
It's a lot of story, but then when you're dealing with a higher intelligence, it's multidimensional. Not everything in this universe is physical. So when you're dealing with a higher multidimensional intelligence, you're not going to be dealing in the physical plane all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because they utilize those other dimensions very well. But I got physical pictures of the activity that was going on in the house, and I had to call.
Oh, okay.
I called out the paranormal. I called out the paranormal societies. They went through. They even had a priest. They went through. They said there was no demons. They said it is a poltergeist activity, but they couldn't figure out what it was. They did temperature readings. They did all of that stuff. And the one woman who is a Tequista Indian, who was a member of that paranormal research group, told me that because she said she thinks it's ET, and they can't deal with ETs because they're only used to dealing with ghosts or something. And then nobody was able to solve it. So then finally I asked my people, can you help me? Can you help me? Well, I had a dream one night that I went up. We went to Kansas, and we went to visit this other woman that's in Kansas that's a lot like me, here to do mission work and everything like that, and that they were plaguing her. And I got a good glimpse of who they were. they're bluish beings, like sky bluish beings, and they got like little horns and like one on each side of their forehead, small though, and they got matted looking yellowish blotchy hair on their head, and they look like reptilian, but gray and something else, and they were being used as super soldiers, and they had to take cadavers and reinforce their own bodies with stem cells and epithelial tissue and stuff from the cadavers, and they were in the 4 and the 5-dimensional trans-phase shift. So a normal person in the 3rd dimensional and their present physical form could walk through it all day long and not be affected. This offset of frequencies is not going to interfere the two bandwidths. But if you're on the same 4 or 5-dimensional trans-phase shift like we usually are, we couldn't walk through it because effectively it's solid to us. And I saw what they were doing, and I felt really bad for them. And then one of them told me, we don't want to hurt you. We don't want to damage you. They're forcing us to do this. They're exploiting us. And we want to help. And we're benevolent, and they're abusing us. And they said that they need help. I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And that was in another one of my so-called scout scenes. And then I found out later on that after we had gone and we had found out who they were and everything, the scouts and the activity stopped. And then when I did start up again, it was around my orchids. I finally said, okay, you got my attention. What do you need? What do you want? And I had to leave my mind go blank. And what I got was impressions that they're from another planet, they were exploited, and they need my help, and they were mad at me because some of their people were killed when we wiped out the colonies on Mars. And I said, oh, it's Mars again. It's a sore spot in a lot of us. And
right. And so what's behind what they said that there's an underground base in Mars, and what is Trump's association with that? Is he going there? Has he been there? Do we have troops there? What's your thoughts on that article that said about the underground base on Mars?
I know that there's underground base. I know that there's underground bases on the moon and on Mars, and a lot of them are extraterrestrial, alien, and a lot of them are secret space fleet military, human. And the military human ones we monitor very closely. And Solar Warden is in there, and so is the Air Force and the Navy. And any time now, there's serious, big, huge fleets right now docketed around the sun and docketed around the Earth and on the backside of the moon. And I'm going to tell you, when the trouble is going to hit the fan, we're going to run them all out of there. That's reinforcements. I've never seen so many ships.
How do you know they're the dark side or the light side of the force? I mean, they're just ships, right? Who are these people? You know, what's the action? Bruce, do you have any inside information on any of this stuff? I want to let Bruce talk a little bit, mix up our voices. So, Bruce, chime in and tell us what your thoughts and opinions are on information so we get the whole story.
I sort of keep it, I try to stay neutral on all of this, listening to the different opinions and beliefs. I mean, there's a lot of information out there that has come about the secret space force for a while now, and there are a lot of skeptics and doubters on that. And yet we occasionally get a little glimpse into information that would seemingly support the idea or concept. But one of the things we need to keep in mind is that, for the most part, the public is unaware that all of this is going on, or just will not accept it or believe it. And while we may talk about it as if it's fact, we still need to get solid confirmation. And Susan, why don't you talk a little bit about all of those ships docking with the sun, because that is being covered up.
That's what I was referring to, and it's this Gina Maria Calvin Hill, the amateur astronomer, who takes all these videos with her iPhone 8 with a camera attachment to it and everything, and she's an amateur, and she's done it with her telescope, and she films this stuff and exposes it directly on YouTube, and I was the one who catches this and then I'll keep the videos, and then I'll do screenshots of it. And she is the one that's exposing this. Now, what NASA will do is they will scrub the photos and the videos before they release it to the public about the Soho satellite and the Helios satellite and stuff. And I know for a fact that they're there because, again, I'm going back to some of my experiences. I have gone through the sun. I've worked around the sun. I've gone through the big, huge hole that's in the sun. We go backwards in our ship, go backwards into that hole in the sun. We go out the other side, and and we do work around the sun. And the portals that are shown in the very first picture that I sent you, it shows a close-up. It's called the edge refinement, and it looks like one ship has a line going across lengthwise, and another ship has like 3 landing bays. I know those landing bays. I've been in them before many times in my my recall scout missions. So I know that those are ours. And not only that, I don't think the secret space fleet or any human human has the ability to go through a sun or right up to the sun's corona like we do. We are higher energy beings. We have capabilities humans innately don't have.
So these ships that are around the sun, you said they're ours?
They're mine, our people, not the humans.
Oh, your people. And tell our listeners again, who are your people? What races are they again? For those who haven't.
Okay,
go ahead.
We're not indigenous to this universe. We come from adjoining universes. Specifically, those adjoining universes who are in imminent danger because the portals in this universe are being attacked and infiltrated and possibly compromised. So they're coming in and they're helping us in an alliance. And we don't answer to any local universe council. We were called in by Multiverse Council, or what they call Council of One. And now they misconstrue that as the Law of One. No, it's the Council of One. And it's seated in Taurus and also in Cygnus. There might be another third point, but mainly those are the main 2 that we deal with. And my people, specifically my lineage that's now seated, in Archeron and Cygnus, we come from Murfactinum universe on the backside of the Draco Alpha Draconis portal.
Okay. Let me just check and see if anybody else. Okay, we have somebody else that has shown up. Okay, hold on. Area code 978. Who do we have here?
Yeah, hi. This is Randy. Randy Anderson.
Oh, hi, Randy. Do you have a
Hi.
question for our panel?
Not so much just a question, but I do have. I want their insight as to alien abductions, and I kind of wanted to share an event that took place when I was about 14 years old.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, as long as
yes.
it's not like 2 hours. Yeah, but keep it brief. But yes, do share. If it's
Okay,
really interesting, we'll have you up for a longer show. But we're trying to get a lot in today. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm not. I would imagine you guys do believe in extraterrestrials, and when I was younger, I was actually I was in camp up in Northern California, and it was a camp for young men, and so we were out camping, and I remember being out with a group of us. It was only 5 of us, and I remember the lights, like something lighting up through the trees. Not so much, I couldn't really tell the direction of where the light was coming from, but I was able to, I can't explain it. It's almost like as if it just flowed, the light kind of flowed through the trees down onto us. And there was quite a thick canopy. I remember that very vividly. And I remember feeling warm, and I remember kind of feeling like it was an out-of-body experience. But later on in my years, I started remembering more and more. And what had happened is I remember being on a counter of some sort. I don't want to say it was a bed because it wasn't, but it was also not made of metal. It was made of some type of I can't explain it. Kind of like plastic, but it was softer.
Mm-hmm.
And so they began to probe me, and I feel like they took blood, and I feel like they took hair follicles or whatever it was. And I remember feeling just a sensation coming over my body, and I felt very. Basically, what it was, I felt like they had put something either in me or taken something out. I know that sounds weird, but I feel like something was either put in me or put out. At least that's what I thought during that time. And then as later on I started realizing what had happened, it was actually the troop leader was actually fucking me in the asshole over and over again, and that's where I thought like it was an alien. It wasn't. It was him coming in my asshole. He was fucking. The troop leader was fucking my asshole.
Okay, that's enough. We can't be swearing. This is broadcasting a lot of things. So
they had the Boy Scouts of America. They had that lawsuit. Did you ever get a part of that class action lawsuit against the Boy Scouts of America?
I muted him because he kept using the F-bomb, and I can't do that. So I'm not going to put him back on. But yeah, let's just go over what was just said. So go ahead, Susan. What are your comments on our listener? I don't know if he was serious or not. I don't know if he just wanted to come on and drop the F-bomb, so that's not appropriate. But
yeah.
I think he might have been a joke. I mean, because you can't come on and say that. That's not.
Yeah.
What about you,
sounded
Bruce?
serious,
What do you
but
think?
it was a joke. Whatever.
I think it was a joke. What do you think, Bruce?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was a troll. He was just coming up onto spoil the show. The fact that he said that you said that we believe in ETs without listening and realizing that Susan doesn't believe in them. She's one of them. She knows it. It's like, do I believe I'm a human? Of course. It's not a belief. It's a knowing. So when he started saying that, I realized that he was not true to what he was trying to say.
So what do you think is behind people's need to come on and troll and try to is this threatening to have a discussion about extraterrestrials and how they are interacting with humans?
They cannot accept it. They just simply cannot accept the concept that we are not alone and that we are being abducted.
Right.
Because of the fact the aliens represent a threat to the very matrix that the cabal and the negative ET scourge has created over the human race. Because once they find out, the human race finds out the existence of other beings, and most of them are benevolent because most of the universe is positive. Most of the beings, the true state of being is positive. It's not pain. It's not struggle. It's not polarity. It's not good being sabotaged by evil or nothing. And when they find that out, and they found that the true nature, aliens represent the true state of being an identity throughout the universe. And once the humans start to experience something different outside of their realm, they start to not only understand how the universe works, they start to understand their own abilities and psychic abilities and their own attributes and everything, and they start to evolve and start to gain an independent, free-thinking mind where they can have self-determinism, self-governing, an innate sense of right and wrong, and they have a true sense of identity and a sense of self-preservation. And that is the threat against the evil cabal and the evil elite and the negative ET scourge who wants to feed off the human emotion, subjugate and usurp the human, and trap them from ever being able to reach their full potential. Because the humans were specifically created to be a placeholder for the baseline harmonic that regulates the very nature of physical reality. And they were also created to be the guardians of the stargates in the sector by the founders who created this universe. Not our people. We were called in to help to eliminate the evil that's plaguing the human race and other lower evolved races. That's what we pose a threat. to the cabal,
and
that's why they don't want our presence known.
It seems like this polarity paradigm, this polarity paradigm, the continuum of light, good, evil, goodness,
that's
conscious, unconscious. That's the original
that's
paradigm.
All a farce.
Polarity.
No.
Okay.
That is a farce.
So what is this? So why is part of most of the universe is good, light, conscious? They're not unconscious. They come in with full awareness of who they are. All their lifetimes simultaneous. There's really not past lives. It's simultaneous existences in different vibratory frequencies and realms and planets and out in space and space stations, whatever. We simultaneously exist. We bring our attention into being here on this radio show and being human. But part of the reason why here on the earth that people can be so cruel is we don't feel each other. We're a thick skin. We're in a skin encapsulated self-sense. And the thick skin keeps us from merging consciousness, because when we're even just one click out into like death, the death state, the Bartos, and we get into the other side, we can merge into each other. We can fully feel what it was like to be that person, and we have total empathy and compassion. But here, because of the grand experiment, this is my concept, okay? I'll put in my humble opinion that we agree to go unconscious, and I had this discussion with Craig Campabasso on Tuesday show, yeah. He's brilliant, and he's producing a movie about Valiant Thor. But anyway, we're talking about this whole nature of existence and why this part down here around Earth is so dark and full of, wars in space, and then most of existence has kind of evolved. We've been doing this for billions and trillions of years, right? So, we've grown up. Most of the existence has grown up, and it's not there. But this tiny part kind of holds the other end of the polarity, this continuum, and everything gets acted out here. And, so that's my, I don't want to say belief, not belief. That's my understanding at this point, but you have a slightly different understanding. Bruce, what's your understanding of the nature of existence and how we play this out? Bruce.
Excuse me?
What is your concept of how the universe is organized and how things get played out, and why is this planet so dark and light, like so extreme, that we have violence, that we have war, that we have one person can kill another or kill a whole group, and it doesn't seem to really bother that person. Sometimes they're a hero because they, killed for the right team, the right army. What are your thoughts on what happens here that's so different from the rest of the system?
This is just something that was told to me by my by Kara, who was my ET contact, and she said that the Earth is a place for learning, that where spirits or beings are sent in order to interact with one another and experience the worst of things. In other words, experience evil and have to deal with this. And if they succeed or successful, then they're sent back to their home planet. And it's sort of a place of learning. Whereas most of the other worlds are not like this at all. This is an aberration, compared to everything else, and it's a melting pot to try to change, bring us experiences that we can't have on other planets.
Well, I'm speaking firsthand from my own experiences, my past life recall, and other planets that I've been to. And this Earth is corrupt. And I've pulled up something here, and I'm going to read it because this explains it perfectly. False father god religions fuel soul recycling. Under the invasion of Earth that transpired in stages, since the Luciferian rebellion 25,500 years ago, the negative alien agenda was formed by the intruders to prepare the inhabitants of the planet to worship false alien gods such as Yahweh, Jehovah, and Allah. All three of these are collectives which feed into negative aliens and groups of archons that feed on the planetary fields through those humans that pray, give offerings, and worship these alien entities through the creation of their violent religions such as Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. These are sophisticated mind control matrices that run the religious software programs through false white light webbing that is designed to capture the human soul and consciousness, trapped immediately after bodily death. These are called Eye of Yahweh, Eye of Metatron. I don't know about the Metatron part. Eye of Jehovah that operate as refraction lenses, bending light into artificial holograms and synthetic timelines. In other words, they're distorting reality. To enforce their patriarchal domination in human culture, some false father archetypes are hand-selected by intruder aliens, like the Egyptian pharaohs and stuff. I'm putting that in. And showcased as patriarchal prophets for their violent religions through brainwashing methods, employing militarization strategy with technological mind control. The predator mind and their religions are downloaded into the planetary mind by destabilizing the central planetary energy vortex. That last part was mine. When the planetary mind was invaded, the collective race mind of humanity was forever changed over generations of religious programming. The truth of the alien invasion was forgotten through the consistent consciousness wiping and recycling of angelic humanity's collective soul through, and I'm going to add, through the reincarnation trap. And that says it all.
Yes.
And that names the culprits who are involved behind the scenes.
But Susan, that is what has been created or allowed to exist here so that this can take place.
Or so we're told. Or so we're told. We're led to believe that so that we can forgive them and give them some leniency or clemency or whatever you want to call it, so that they can feel free to continue perpetuating the same activities. This is unconscionable and should not be tolerated. You can learn about other races. You can learn about anything and everything, and you don't have to suffer or have pain or have austerities or anything imposed on you for the learning process. An ideal person is going to learn through conductive, effective, a conducive environment for learning. Like a child needs to be fed, it needs to have its clothes, it needs to have a nice, calm environment for learning in school. The same concept. You don't torture and beat the child and expect it to learn and evolve and grow. This is not a true state of being. All the lies are imposed on this race, like the New Age movements and all the religions. Oh, you got to experience pain to grow. No, you don't. And the true state of being, which these people have lost sight of, a true state of being, you have a conducive, integrated, challenging, positive learning environment where you interface with all your different energy sources and processes and objects in your environment, and you expand and grow. You interact with other beings on a positive level, and you learn about them, and then so you learn about yourself. That is not happening here. This is a farce and a charade. Why? They want to control and subjugate the physical reality, and they want to feed off the pain of the human psyche. And the humans are a lower evolved dimensional race, and they feel they can prey, P-R-E-Y, prey off of the victim.
Right. Hey, I'm getting.
Whenever anything tells you you got to suffer,
go ahead,
they're wrong. That's false.
Now, I have some questions coming in from the chat, and so I'd like to ask the panel from Ashley. She says, you mentioned the Abrahamic gods being aliens. What about figures like Lucifer? Is he an alien too? Let's go around. All three of us answer that. You first. Go ahead, Susan.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Lucifer, Satan, Thoth, Horus, Jesus, Yahweh, Jehovah, and all of them are all all part of the same clan of negative ET tall white factions that run the Ark of Vanna, which is the surrogate planet class type ships. They run the Ark of Vanna ships, and they call those ships Heaven and the Holy Bible or Allah or Quran or whatever. They call those ships Heaven, and they're called Ark of Vannas. That's their technical name, as per Mark Brinkerhoff. Now,
I don't know who Mark Brinkerhoff is.
Yeah, that's
okay,
the one who
let's
told
all
me
answer
about
that question. So let me
they're all
chime
part
in
of the
and then
same
Bruce
clan.
give.
They're all on the same team, and they're all playing the same game to trick everybody. They're all on the same side. It's just like politics. You got the Obamas, the Clintons, the Bushes, the Trumps, and they're all in the same bed together with the negative, with the cabal and everything. But they all play both sides to trick everybody into thinking there's good and bad, when in reality it's all one entity with different names on it. I'm telling you that's what it is.
Okay, so let's all have our interpretation. So let Bruce go second, and then I'll go third. So the question was, what about figures like Lucifer? Is he an alien too? What's your opinion on that? And this is all of our opinions, right? Because we just can express our opinions. So go ahead, Bruce. What do you think about the Abrahamic
about
gods
what?
Being aliens?
I think there's some truth in this. I really do. I think that there, you know how they say that the wool has been pulled over our eyes. I mean, why in the Christian religion are called sheep, other than to be led and misled? I mean, I had extraordinary experiences during my lifetime with these entities who incarnated as my late wife, and they clearly were trying to get me to become more like them, and I wouldn't. And so they have basically, cast me out because I'm, they spent all of this time and effort to try to convert me, and they weren't able to do that. Now I have a website out there, and I gave a talk at a convention in February called The Anatomy of an ET Spiritual Deception of Biblical Magnitude. And if you read it online, you're going to find out all of the details about how this deception was perpetrated and for what purpose it was perpetrated. And it seems to be leading towards the second coming of Christ. But that's just the bait to try to get us to continue along the same path, thinking that it's really going to happen. We're going to have a Savior that is going to come down and change everything and make peace with everybody. But if you listen to Susan, she knows what is going to happen to all of these negative ETs.
So let me give my perspective. Thanks for that, both of you. Okay, I've studied the Zechariah situation. My husband and I have studied with him for like the last 10 to 15 years of his life, and then he passed in 2010. And so Dr. Lessin, my husband, was asked to carry on the education. And so my husband's an anthropologist, PhD from UCLA, and so we took the project along with there were about 200 Titchenites, people that traveled around the world with Titchen, and we would go to these different events and all talk to each other and then get the updates from Zechariah. So the Anunnaki are just as complicated as human beings. We are they. To demonize the Anunnaki is to demonize ourselves, but I guess humanity is pretty screwed up. But they have factions, and they have the good, bad, the evil, the ugly, and so they have and that's what comes down to the story of the devil and God and Satan, God and Lucifer, and God, and so they, of course, are in the polarity game, and the victors of the war, tell the story. So what happened at the end of their story is they ended up with a war, and it ended up with Sodom and Gomorrah, and it was a big debate over who gets to run each generation. So that's why they developed astrology. So that was which god gets to run which era, and it was based on the coming of the Bureau and the alignment in the stars. And so Enki started teaching Margot, what are you looking for the return of the Bureau? Because depending on how the Bureau came through, it could create a catastrophe, or it could have little to no effect. and that's why we have stories about not only Noah's flood, but during the exodus of what was his name? The guy who went up on the mountain.
Noah.
Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Moses. There was a big catastrophe and the Dead Sea. So that was another passing of Nibiru, or the Lagrange point, which is a bunch of it's the complete opposite end of where Nibiru is in the solar system is debris. A lot of debris. So those things coming through cause like chaos. So Enki loved humanity. Enki was the major geneticist, along with. Oh, here's Amanda trying to come in. Okay. So yeah, I'd say it's complicated. I don't think it's quite the story you have, and we could share a longer story on the Anunnaki. I'd like to have Dr. Lessin in. We could do an episode on the Anunnaki. Let me go get Amanda. She wants to come on. Okay, let me go see if I can get her on. You two continue talking 1 moment while I pull Amanda into the show. Sorry about that. And we have a couple more questions that. Let me get the next question for you. Let's see. One guy was being weird. Somebody wants to share. Who is that? John Connor. Okay. Area code 858. He wants to share your story. Okay. John, we'll let you on, and you can talk like 5 minutes, or something brief. But if you curse and make it into a porn show, we're gonna cut you off. Okay, John? So, area code 858. I believe that's a fellow who calls himself John. Hi, John. Can you behave yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening.
Okay.
I was actually very curious as to, if I could just be totally honest, you guys sound batshit crazy. You guys sound like a crazy, cocksucking, motherfucking piece of dog.
Okay, so I'm not taking any calls.
Yeah, it's best
alert.
not to.
You guys are a bunch of assholes. Okay,
Do you
thank you
know
people
why
for
they're
being
doing
on the
that?
panel.
I can tell you exactly why they're doing that. They're being motivated by the cabal, the deep state, the brainwashing from the mainstream media, which is run by the military-industrial complex, and all they're doing is acting as agents of propaganda for the cabal or deep state, and all they're doing is perpetuating the oppression of their own race, and they ought to be castrated for that.
Yeah, this is why I don't take the calls, because I don't have a way of screening them, when we're live. So I'm sorry, everybody that's there. Just chat away in the chat, but I'm not going to take your call because there's too much of a delay before when I can get to the mute button and you get to swear on my show. And so, up yours. Okay. Here's Amanda. Hi, Amanda. Glad that you joined us. So I have Amanda. Amanda, can you talk? Are you on mute? Oh. Anyway, I'm just having trouble getting her. Let me try her once again. But go ahead. Let's continue. That wasn't a real question.
I was going to say that the reason this whole thing started, the whole evil scourge and the parasitic feeding off of the humans and the other lesser evolved beings, it all started when we collapsed the other universe on the backside of Draco. And some of the disembodied negative parasitic entities that had sapped the life force out of that universe, which is why we had to collapse it, some of them escaped. And they hid in the portals. And that would explain why after we collapsed the other universe on the backside of Draco, they emerged from the portals into this universe. This universe is very critical because it's like right in the middle of other adjoining universes. It's like you draw a circle and there's a bunch of lines going out from the circle. The circle is this universe and those lines are the other adjoining universes. And basically because of this, it's very critical. If they can control this, they can feed off the life force of all the other adjoining universes, and that's why there's such treacherous battles over all the stargates and portals and fast track systems. And this sector in particular is very critical because you got highly evolved universe races on the backside of what they call the life vein that runs from like Cygnus through Cassiopeia, Pleiades, Taurus, Orion, Auriga, Sirius, and then on the back side of that, on the south side of the universe, you got like the Southern Cross, and there's 2 or 3 other constellations. Well, there's a lot of portals, and it's a highly fought, highly contested real estate. And there is no rhyme or reason for evil, just like a cancer in the patient. It has no real purpose except just to feed off the life force. That's what it does. And when they came in, they infiltrated some of the human that were in control and controlled them and perpetuated, and they messed up the DNA, and that's how this whole thing deteriorated. There used to be Zeb Tepi, which existed before the flood. And the reason the flood was done, it was done by the evil by the negative ET scourge, the Anunnaki, and they came in and they flooded the planet to remove any traces of other alien races that were coexisting with the humans at that time, because there was a peaceful coexistence. It was the golden age before they came in and they ruined it. And they offset the central planetary matrix, and they made it unstable. And they also made the human psyche unstable. And at one time, the planetary matrix used to be stable, and there used to be a fixed, true planetary identity. And they destroyed that and so doing, destroying the human sense of true identity. I mean, they really messed up the human psyche from its embryonic state onward. And Noah and the flood, that's where that came from, because they wanted to wipe out any trace of any other alien races that were here.
Let me see if Amanda can hear us. Amanda, can you hear us?
Hello.
Just put the mute on.
Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes. Sarah,
Hi.
when you call in, there's a mute button, and then.
Okay, I was just texting guys, and I was saying I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
Yeah, not
we can hear you now.
So, welcome, Amanda. So,
Hello.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi.
Is that Bruce as well?
Yep.
Yeah, Bruce is here.
Oh, hi, Bruce.
Hi, Amanda.
And I heard Susan too. Hello, Susan, and hello, Janet. And
hi.
I do not remember Sasha. Is the other one?
No, Sasha's not here. No, Sasha's
just Janet today?
Susan, Bruce, and you and me. No, Sasha's not here, and Teresa was going to join us, but she never called in, so I don't know if she got busy or fell asleep, but she was supposed to come on. Anyway, we're here, and so I want to hear from you. I would like your opinions and for you to chime in. Tell us who you are. How did you get into this field?
Currently, I am unemployed at the moment. You know, pandemic and everything going on. I don't have any degrees comparable to Bruce or Susan. Honestly, when Susan asked me to come on, I was asked to do one other show too, and whenever I've been asked, compared to other people who come on the shows, I always feel like my experiences are less than, because I haven't had any of my regressions done or anything like that.
Amanda, sweetheart, you are so important. All that other stuff is just bull crap. That doesn't define you. Everybody's equal to everybody. You are a very vital, important person. We want to know your wisdom. You have your own experiences that you contribute. So please, you're very worthy. You're very wonderful. I can tell just by your voice. So what can you bring to the table just by your living experience? Come and tell us, share with us. Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I'm a starseed, of course. Ever since I was a little girl, I knew that I was not of this planet. I didn't really resonate with my parents, even though if you look at me, I look exactly like both of them, but they never really felt like mine,
Mm-hmm.
I just always felt like my family was out there somewhere waiting for me. And whenever I got homesick, I would go and I would look at the stars, and that's just where I found my peace, And as I started to grow up a little bit, still a young child, I have a family friend. I call her my aunt. Her name is Wari Cardi, and she is very, very into the spiritual and metaphysical. She's, had learned so many different things from, Reiki to meridian tapping. She's been involved with so much. But she's the one who really, opened my eyes as a child to the spiritual and the metaphysical and all of that. So because I could always sense and see ghosts and an empath and an intuitive. But so I started working with pendulums first as a little girl, and I thought it was the coolest thing. So I wanted to show all my cousins because I was raised with all of my cousins. And as soon as I showed them, they tormented me. Tormented me for the rest of my, they still torment me about it to this day, honestly. Amanda would go and talk to her little ghost friends. And so I just wanted to be loved, so I buried it, and I suppressed all my gifts for a really long time.
They don't want us to shine. It's sad. Yeah. So how did you get past that? Because you're here, you're talking now.
My aunt was the one who really always, kept. Because I didn't really start looking into this stuff again until, I started to get older in my teen years, 18, 19. I'm about to be 30 in this upcoming February. But then so I always, kept an ear out, but I didn't talk to people about it, and I just really, really suppressed it. I hated myself for it. And I'm not sure fully what you guys talk about on this station, but when I was younger, I also had a run-in with, demonic entities as well. So that really scared me for a while, too. One of my friends had gotten possessed, and she used to try to kill me and attack me and say that she was going to take my light and that she would squander my light. And if I would touch her, she would scream out like she was burning. She chased me around with an axe, with a butcher knife, with one of my best friends, who was actually her cousin. She was there for all of this. It's the night that it happened, we were all together. I'll call my friend who got possessed. I'm trying to think of what to call her because I don't want to put out her real name.
Don't put a real name. Did she ever get help?
I'll explain. I'll call her Dana. But so I'll call it Dana and Kristen. Okay, so Dana and Kristen are cousins, and we were all, best friends. But this is when I was, very young, probably, 11 years old. I want to say 12 years old, and actually no, probably like 10, 11. Yeah, 10, 11. And we were having a sleepover at Danielle's house, and we went up to her room, and she had this big mirror in her room, and she said she wanted to play a game. And we said, okay, whatever. And she said she called it Open the Gates. And I had never, heard of it before. I honestly thought it was a joke. And so all three of us sat down cross-legged in front of the mirror, and Dana started speaking some language that I could not understand in the slightest. And like the way how easily she spoke it was like she had done it before, And the next thing, after she finished saying the words, I blacked out. And so did Kristen. We all woke up the next morning laying on the floor in front of the mirror, with no idea what happened. At least me and Kristen had no idea, and Dana said she had no idea, but I don't really know. So then, slowly over the next few days is when she started really showing the signs. And then as it progressed, it got worse and worse and worse to the point that she chased me around with an axe. But one day we were, and it wasn't all the time, like it would come out randomly. But one day we were at a baseball field by our houses, and the kids were, the baseball team was practicing, and we were all the way across the field. Like it was two baseball fields that were next to each other, and we were on the farthest side of the opposing baseball field. Okay, so that's pretty far. And the kid who came up to bat hit the ball, and man, that ball hit with such a crack, like I knew that thing was going to fly. So we're watching, and it's headed right towards us, and Kristen and I start like backing up out of the way, and Dana is just standing there, eyes wide, blank stare, watching the ball come flying at her head, and it whacked her right in the freaking temple. And she fell to the ground, and she actually got like a little bit of slight brain damage from it. But after that, it, seemed to disappear. And she like stopped really talking about it and all that kind of stuff. Huh?
So you're saying it knocked out the demonic force?
I kind of think it might have been like some sort of intervention, either that or it buried itself, because her and I actually did drift apart. Me and Kristen are still best friends to this day, but honestly, Kristen isn't even close with her cousin Dana anymore either. But we kind of drifted apart. But so I'm not sure if it completely knocked it out, or if it's still even in her, because 2 years ago I saw her for the first time in like 10, 12 years. And it was actually, I was at a farm fair with Kristen and her boyfriend, and Dana and her family had just so happened to be there, like her brothers and her parents, and I knew them all. I was friends with her one older brother and stuff, and we ran into each other at the farm fair. And I swear it was like she looked right through me. She didn't even acknowledge me. Like, even her family was looking at her weird because, like, she wasn't speaking to me, like it literally looked like she didn't even know I was there. It was the most insane thing. Like Kristen and I afterwards were like, what the hell? Because it was the craziest thing. Like I was standing right in front of her and it was like she wasn't even picking me up. Like did not say one freaking word.
Let's get some feedback from Susan and Bruce about that episode. And then I want to shift to Susan. She recommended you come on for some particular reason because we only have like 39 minutes left. So real quick here.
Yeah, I was going to say I can get more into my
ET.
I was going to say I can get more into my ET experiences, but I just wanted to give, because you asked about like my childhood and what really got me into this. So.
Okay, well let's just pause that right there because we went into demonics. It's interesting that we had a menu of things to go, so we went into the demonic side. And so we were talking about the continuum earlier, like dark, good, evil. So Bruce, what would you like to say to Amanda about her experience? What's your perceptions, and if you have any questions, back to Amanda?
Well, all I can say is that and it's taken me a while to listen to a lot of different experiences people have with evil or demonic spirits, and it is clear to me now that they not only really exist, but that they are here to torment us, and that we must take them seriously. And that's an unfortunate situation. I mean, the shows that we have on now that are focusing on spirits and demons are coming up with example after example, and I'm hoping that the scientific community will be more interested in the invisible aspects of our reality that include things and consciousness that is invisible to us. We're getting instruments and cameras that are now starting to pick this up to show that these beings really do exist. And
absolutely.
And Susan can, her comments about the, this evil scourge, the tall whites and the Dracos or the reptilians and all of that. Even though these are terms given as archetypes of who they represent, their influence on us is real. I've studied the religion for many decades now with my own personal experiences, and I wanted to believe what I was being told was true. I wanted to believe that the scripture was the true word of God. But the more I looked into it, the more I began to see the deception and the falseness. I mean, you're dealing with entities that are very intelligent, and in many cases more intelligent than humans, and they can trick us and deceive us more easily than most of us think we can be deceived.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I feel like we are in the day and age where we really need to start melding science and spirituality together, because that's where I feel like that's where this world is leading to. The two need to meld together, and we need unity consciousness.
I mean, the one thing that has always stood out in my mind is you keep on hearing, that there is all of these imposters out there trying to convince us that they are the Savior or Christ, and and that is the big problem. If we're dealing with a spiritual entity, how do we verify who that entity is? We can't, except by its deeds. Its deeds. And otherwise, we have to suspect everything. All of these cases of channeling, we really don't know who's channeling that information. And these entities can be very intelligent and knowledgeable, and they can give us, lots of nuggets of truth mixed in with a lot of BS.
Yes, yes. A woman that I just recently started, looking into her stuff within the last year. She has an Instagram called Angelic Humanity, and then her name is Ashayana Dean, and
yes,
that's actually not her real name.
I think that's obvious. But Susan read something from that webpage of her webpage that I sent to her, that was just essentially tearing the Abrahamic religions to pieces. Just basically challenging all of what we have been told. Because Susan, why don't you state this? You've stated it so clearly of why the true creator ETs would never expect us to bow and worship to them.
That's true. They don't. The true, and I'm speaking firsthand as one of the descendants of the Master Energy Creator races from our Factanum universe, and working with the founders who actually created the creation of the universe is an existential, euphoric, ecstatic, exhilarating, scintillating experience of one's whole being. When you see that beautiful creation unfold and you see the beautiful life forms and everything in it, you don't want those life forms to bow to you. You want those life forms to evolve into their true, complete potential and exercise their own sovereignty and their own unique identity and fulfill their purposes for existence. Any being that comes down and says you got to bow to them, or I did you a favor and now you owe me, or I'm going to trap your soul in the reincarnation trap, or anything like that, is evil and parasitic. Any true Master Energy Creator being is going to want every living planetary race to have its own sovereignty, have its own identity, have its own self-governing, and have its own self-preservation and total integration. Absolute bar none.
Yes, absolutely. The soul matrix trap is just a whole nother frickin' talk.
Can I add something here? Let me interject something here. Okay. Yeah, because this is a great conversation. There's a researcher, author named Sir Lawrence Gardner, and he has privy to the power elites, the royals. They all have these vast libraries and vaults underneath their castles, and a lot of the stuff they have there is from the Crusades. The royals brought back all this stuff from the Crusades, and they probably have, some of the artifacts that are very sacred. Anyway, he was given access to these ancient libraries, which are about 1,000 years old, and so he was an Anunnaki researcher. And the story of the Anunnaki is a unbroken thread going all the way back to Anu, and it goes through the royals, and a lot of us are, related over and over and over to the Anunnaki. We're all one family. We're all related to our bloodline. But what he said is that the word worship got manipulated. It was just worship. And everybody was when the Anunnaki children, they were given their destiny, so they would declare, this child upon their birth, they gave everybody a purpose. What were they going to be when they grew up? And so this one was going to be, it was because they were all the royal children. This one's going to be in charge of the rivers, and this one's in charge of the mountains, and this one's and so they declared their worship. What were they going to do? So they all had meaning and purpose, and they still do that. They married this one off to that one. It's not much has changed, right? So it's just a manipulating of the word. No, they didn't intend for people to bow down and worship them. But when people saw them, because their true form is like 12, 15 feet tall, you can see it in the artifacts and the depictions that humans kind of come up to their kneecaps, right? They're sitting on the throne, and the human comes up to their knees, and so imagine when they stand up, they're 15, 20 feet tall. And of course, and this is even natural in human culture, if you have a group of people, and they're all average size between 5 foot and 6 foot, and you have somebody tall that comes in 6'5" to 7 foot, we naturally defer to the tall people. That's why most presidents and people that are powerful are tall, right? And actually women will naturally defer to men. It's a total subconscious thing. It's like, and you look at it and you go, oh, wow, what is going on here? So there is an innate hierarchy built into our subconscious mind to defer to these people. So that's why it's another part of the manipulation that people are worshiping. But they never demanded worship, and we just need to, take back our power.
Actually,
and we were mentioning earlier about
they did.
Let me say one more thing, and then I'll pass the talking stick. We were talking about the Messiah. So, they started introducing the Messiah concept years before the Messiah came, right? And the Messiah was supposed to be the one that rescued us from our horrible situation. But and that happens all the time. People are saying that Trump is the Messiah, and they have this big picture of him being anointed. Right? It's like, no, we don't need a Messiah any generation. And so the thread I've been following is that the Enki is actually Jesus, and that's a manipulation and warping. And the story of the creation of humanity in Enki's facilities in South Africa. He had a lab, and Nimba was the one that figured it out. That's a manipulation. The story of virgin birth is just how they created humanity in this lab, and that became everything gets manipulated, right? They took out reincarnation, all this stuff. So I'll pass the talking stick to Susan that had something to say, but I just want to add my 2 cents. And we only have 27 minutes, so keep that in mind. Okay, back to you, Susan. What was the reason you had Amanda come on this show? That's one thing. And then do you have anything to follow up with what we said? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because Amanda has a story about one of her past lives in Mintaka, and how Mintaka was destroyed, and how they had to go. I think it was Lyra. Okay, and I wanted her to tell some of her ET experiences because she was one of the races an example of races that was exploited by the negative ET scourge, possibly the tall whites. And yes,
so who
in the
are
Bible,
the Lyrians?
they
For
do.
those who don't know the origin story, which is kind of the origin of souls coming down into incarnations, it was the first polarity was the Draco-Lyran, right? So there was the Lyrans were peaceful, and can you explain some backstory on that? My husband's so good at it, but he's sleeping. Who are the Lyrans? Why is her incarnation in Lyra so important?
My incarnation wasn't in Lyra. It was in the Orion constellation around the star Mintaka.
Okay. So you want to tell your story now?
Okay, sorry. So I don't remember very much truly about the surface of Mintaka or anything like that so far, but the planet was, like I said, it's in Orion's belt. It's the star on the left. It was a very peaceful planet, all about love. I mean, it was all abundant resources. A lot of people actually believe that is where the dolphins and the whales actually came to Earth from, is Mintaka, because it was a mostly all water planet. We didn't eat the fish or anything like that, which is a characteristic that I actually brought into this life. I do not eat anything that comes from the ocean whatsoever. Because planet, we didn't have to eat the fish or anything like that. It was abundant resources, sea kelps and fruits and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, in this life, I have pretty dominant reptilian DNA, I believe. So I actually really love meat, and that's one of the things that I mostly like in this life. But so the planet was taken over, and it was attacked by the reptilians, the Draco reptilians, and our planet was. It's I'm not sure if it's still there or not. If it is, it's uninhabitable for us now. And our people were either killed or taken as slaves. Some of us, escaped and came down to Earth. I've had some dreams of recall in this life about after I was taken, I believe. They had these weird collars that they put on us. It was this collar that went around our necks, and then it had these chains that connected to our waist, and then another chain that connected to our wrists with cuffs around our wrists, and then the chain from our waist led down to like chains that went to our ankles. And also Mintakans, since it was a mostly water planet, there was land masses, but we mostly lived in the, shallow waters. We could walk on land because we actually had like fins and feet. So that was actually pretty interesting. It's actually pretty interesting to think about in this lifetime to like have fins and feet. Like I wish I could go back to that. Exactly, almost like a mermaid, but we actually had feet as well. Like with a mermaid, how the fin just disappears. With the Mintakan beings, it was almost like when we walked on land, like our fins would kind of like tuck in. It was like still there, but it like would just lift up a little bit. Yeah,
like a seal does, right?
Yeah, almost like that. Yeah, exactly. So we lived like mostly in the shallow waters and stuff, but we were a completely benevolent race. The planet was all about love and unity. It actually makes it very hard to be on this planet with it being so dense and so brainwashed and fear-mongered. It can be a terrifying place to live in here. Seriously.
Yes, it can.
But so, like I said, they took us as slaves, and based on my visions, I believe I was, my visions of, different past life experiences, that I was one who was taken as a slave. They also had these guns that were they were like a AK. It was literally like an AK-47, but also had like a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher, something like that on the end. It was one gun, and it was all biometric. Like only the person who was set up to shoot the gun biometrically could shoot the gun. Anybody else touched it, it wouldn't work.
Right.
So I had very vast, recalls of that, but to get into that, it would take a lot longer than I think we have on the show, and I don't want to, start telling it and then have to cut right in the middle, But other than that, in this lifetime, I believe I've been used in the hybrid program. I have seen one of my hybrid children in my dreams, but other than that, I've had other instances of abductions come back through my dreams. In one, I believe it was the negative ET race who works with the Draco reptilians, the Matra.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever heard of them.
Say that again.
The Matra.
The name? The
The
Matra.
Matra.
How are you spelling that? How are you spelling that?
MAITRE.
Okay.
They look like
what kind of race are they?
They look like Greys, but I believe they are actually more like reptilian in genetics, and they are a parasitic species. Like other ET species in the universe know them as a parasitic race because of the way that they go to planets and completely take over. They are very, very negative race. They work with the reptilians, and they're actually, one of the races who is majorly involved with the deep state along with the reptilians. But they had me in this, I didn't start at the beginning, but we were running around these hallways, and there were there was little kids there, and so we're running through these hallways, and I know something was chasing us, so that's why we were running, and we find this little room, and we go and we hide in it, and then, I can hear them outside of the door, and there was this little tiny, I don't know if it was a window or a vent, but it was very small enough that I could only get the children through it because they were, small children, 4 or 5 years old. So I, took the screen off and I put them up in the vent, and they came in and they picked me up. Now, in these recalls that I have, I cannot remember what the beings looked like. The only being that I can actually remember currently, since I haven't had any regressions done, the only being that I can remember seeing is my child. Like, that's the only one that I can remember even in this waking moment, But they strapped me to what I can only describe as like this old looking dental chair. And I mean, it had like the coloring of like old blood or like oxidization on it splattered everywhere. It freaked me out. So they strapped me down, and I had a strap at my collarbones, at my neck, at my waist, at my thighs, and at my ankles. And these beings, sorry, it messes me up even thinking about it.
Yeah, I understand. It's emotional, yeah.
Now, when you hear this, before I say this, it is very, very disgusting what they did to me. And some people might be horrified by it. But they are a very negative race. They enjoy scaring us. They enjoy making us feel disgusted, humiliating us, all negative emotions. They enjoy it. They want to freak us the hell out. So they brought out this live kitten. And they made me eat the kitten. And when I woke up, I could still feel its blood in my mouth, and I could still taste its blood and feel its hair in my throat, and hear its screams in my ears. And in the research that I've done about dreams, when all this stuff first started happening to me, you're not supposed to be able to dream things you don't know, things that haven't happened to you. you know?
Mhm.
So there's no way that I could just be making something like that up. I mean, the sound, the way the bones crunched and felt in my mouth, like, sorry.
No, this is very intense.
This is the types of things that they do to people. One of my very good friends, who I'm not in contact with anymore at the moment, but her and her sister have had involvement with reptilians for a long time, ever since they were children. Her older sister, I'll call her Rainey for right now, but Rainey, after I started, telling her this story, she almost completed my sentences as I was talking about it. The only difference was she didn't get a cat. They gave her a mouse. And actually with her, it's actually pretty interesting. This isn't my own experience, but briefly, something really interesting that happened to her. She had never had surgery before, Rainey, and just recently she had went in to get surgery to make herself sterile because she didn't want children. So she went in and she had this surgery, and afterwards the surgeon comes in and looks really, really perplexed and kind of upset and says, Did you lie to us about your medical records? Have you had surgery before? And she said, no, this is my first surgery. And the surgeon said, I don't know how it happened, and we're going to try to do some research. But you have scarring on every internal organ below your stomach.
Yeah. And
every internal organ.
Every internal organ. So, when you get down to the point where I can ask some questions, let me know. But continue until you've got to a point where you feel you can take in a question. Go ahead. Continue.
We continue. Sorry. But so then I also talking to Rainey and my best friend, her sister Joanne. I started, telling Joanne about my experiences that I had on the ship where I saw my hybrid child. And her and I described the exact same ships to each other. Like, the exact same ships, the exact same room. I was in this little room. It looked like it would have been, by the shape of the room, it looked like it would have been like a saucer, like a normal saucer-shaped UFO. And where the saucer would have come down to like a point where both of the where the underside and the upper side connect together, where it would almost come to that point. It didn't come to a point there. It was flat. But it had like these small pill-shaped windows, and I mean the part that was flat, it was very small, like only 6 inches, so it wasn't that big. So the windows were very, very small, but I could remember looking out into space through this window, and there was this big circular bed with red silk sheets on it, and I was holding my child in my arms. He had, his skin tone was like this grayish green color, very light. He had these big, beautiful black eyes and a really, really small nose, tiny, tiny little mouth. He only had 4 fingers, 3 fingers and a thumb. But he was the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And I said, let's get in bed with Daddy. And it wasn't negative or anything like that, which surprises me thinking back on it. It was actually it was actually like super positive the way that I was speaking about his father, you know, the tone of voice and everything. And, you know, I put him in bed, and then I got in bed, and then the next thing I know, I was waking up in my bed.
Who was his father?
I don't know. I can't see him.
Gray? Was he? You don't know anything
I'm not
about
sure
him.
if he's a gray or I'm not sure if he's a gray or if he was a reptilian.
Mhm.
But I kind of believe he might have been a reptilian. Based on
and I've heard many stories with people that have had loving interactions, made love, not just have sex, with reptilians. And so I think the reptilians are as complicated as humans. Or any other.
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing that most people don't realize when they hear the word reptilian is, you know, just like humans, there is bad and there is good. It's the same for every extraterrestrial species as well. There's good ones and there's bad ones.
Right.
You know?
It's complicated. I have one question because we're going to run out of time here, and I do want to invite you back. If it's agreeable, and you can say no, this is definitely an acceptable answer, but I think
absolutely.
it would be great to do this again next week, same time, same channel. But I wanted to go back because I've heard about people being made to do horrendous things. I've had clients where they, you know, this woman was she's deceased by the way, so I don't even remember her name, but she had killed her baby brother, baby sister, in a satanic ritual. So my question is, what do they do that they can force you to do something like open your mouth and bite down on a kitten or bite down on a mouse? And because normally we couldn't do that, we would have a gag reflex and, you know, vomit or, you know, couldn't, yeah. So what are they doing that makes it so that you can even do that action? Do you have any ideas? Any insight?
Well, for me, I was strapped down. Of course, they forced me to open my mouth, and based on the feeling that I had, you know, from it, I haven't had a regression done, so I don't know the full event of it to know full detail. But based on the feeling that I had, if I didn't do it, something worse was going to happen.
Okay. Wow.
If I didn't comply, there would be consequences.
Well, in the interest
and I also think I was scared for the children.
Okay, and they do a lot of morality tests, like, will you sacrifice the children or sacrifice yourself? And I've heard about these morality tests, and all these are kind of like to determine who you are as a person, as a soul. So anyway, we're running out of time, and I'd like to not leave it on a negative. I know it's like impossible, but try to leave it on a more positive note. We don't mind going into the dark stuff, but I'd like to turn it around on an up level. I had no idea where this would go. I normally do like the story in the first hour because some things can get, you know, pretty dark. But there's always a silver lining. So let's go around and let's start with Bruce. What would you like to say, final words to our listeners, and can you make it something a little bit upbeat so people don't have nightmares late? Over to you, Bruce.
Ever since I've known Susan Johnson, I've been impressed with her vast knowledge of many things that are off-planet. And, I find it difficult to understand why so many people don't want to learn anything that, like the knowledge that she has. And she has a similar problem wanting to know why people don't want to know what's going on out there in space. And that's why I'm trying to help her get onto these shows and to tell her story.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Susan, final words to our listeners.
Thank you, Bruce, for helping me out get the word out. And I have been trying to get the word out, and I think it's in vain because I don't think this human race will ever wake up. I think it's too far gone. There are some that will wake up, and it'll be a large enough number to make a difference to where the planet can join the cosmic community like other human-type planets have done throughout this universe. I've had to be the one personally involved in initiating some of those planets into the cosmic community. But this one, because of where it's located, it's been very severely compromised, and that's where all the ships are docketed on the backside of the sun and everything. They're headed up for something huge.
I tend to feel that. It's true. Yeah, something big is coming.
Well, I've heard that 12/21/20 is going to be the real 12/21/12, but there's something major going to happen. But go ahead, Susan. I'll give you the final, or not Susan, Amanda. Since go ahead, you were starting to talk. Final words to you.
I was going to say I definitely have been feeling something big is coming too, but on the other hand, I defer from Susan a little bit. I do not believe that humanity has, that they aren't going to wake up. I believe that we still have a major chance for everybody to wake up if we all keep doing this work and, putting it out there. And I just want to say, for anybody out there who, like me, feels like their experiences are less than and that they shouldn't, be putting themselves out there because they don't have a good enough story in their mind. That doesn't matter. Your story is all important, just like Janet said. To speak freely and spread the truth.
Yes,
thank you, Amanda.
To all of us who are awake, it is up to us and our responsibility to inform those who are not.
Absolutely.
Amanda, when's your birthday in February? Mine is 6th.
February 24th, 1991.
Wow. So happy birthday coming up.
Thank you. Happy birthday to you, too.
I want to thank everybody who came today, and please, like our show, share it, download it, spread the word. I think that's how we're going to get disclosure is by, we had some adversaries here who came on and swore, God bless you little trolls. I won't fall for that again. I did it twice, so I'm too stupid. Let's try it again. I usually don't take calls. That's why, because it's like, no, we can't have that. But my apologies for the profanity, and I'm going to do better next time. But we will see you again next Wednesday on UFO Secret Space, and so that's it for today. So thank you very much, and much love and blessings and aloha, and enjoy your day or your evening wherever you are in the universe. Take care.
Thank you, Janet.
Aloha. Thank you.
Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you,